Hello, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is today. What we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at adding terms in algebra. So we're going to get more and more complicated as we go along. So we'll start with this one here. If I've got 2a and I add 3a together, all I've got to do is I just add the two black numbers up, that gives me 5. And as the a's are the same colour because of the same letter, I just write an a there. So in other words, 2a, or 2 apples plus 3 apples, you get 5 apples. So that's okay there. Now the next one is, next little point we want to look at is if we don't have a number in front of our algebra term, it's an imaginary 1. So you don't just get rid of it. The 5a plus the a is going to be 5 plus a plus 1a, that gives me a 6. And the a there, so remember that for future. Now here's one here, we've got 4a here plus 5c. So what happens there is it stays exactly the same as it is, because you can't mix apples and cucumbers, carrots. But if you mix apples and carrots up together, you'll get a terrible mess. So they've got to remain separate. So we put the 4 and the 5 there and the plus sign. And so the answer is exactly, in this case, the same as the question. Don't try mixing them up. And we'll put the C there. Okay, on we go. Now things get a little bit more tricky. We've got a mixture here of A's and D's this time. So what we've got to do when we're collecting these like terms is we've first of all got to look at all of our A's. So we've got 4a here, and we've got a plus, because it's the sign before, a plus 3a here. So if we add the 4a and the 3a together, I get a grand total of 7a. Okay, next up, I look at my D's. I collect those together. So I'm going to have 6d and I'm going to have 2d, and 6 and 2 gives me plus 8, because it's a plus 6 and a plus 2. We'll explore that a little more later. So that's the 8, and we'll put a d. Okay, so that's when you've got two terms mixed up. Now, let's have a little look. Now we've got some minus signs involved. This is where things get a little bit tricky, so we'll introduce another colour here to help us along the way. I'll get on my knees too. First of all, we've got to deal with the A's. So I've got a 4a and I've got a 3a. But what I've got to look at is I've got to look at the sign before the 3. So in fact I've got 4a minus 3a. So always looking at the sign before. So 4a take away 3a just leaves me with 1a, and of course I don't write my 1, I just write the a. Going on to the c's now. I've got 6c, the plus 6c there, add the minus 9c, because remember we deal with the sign before the number. Let's just make it so we can actually see how they're grouped. So 6 take away 9 gives us minus 3. So it's going to be a minus 3 and then the C at the end. One final one. Let's have a look here. I've got let's go through. So we're going to have an 8a and it's going to be a plus 11a. So 8a plus 11a is going to be 19, and we'll put the a here. Now one thing I haven't mentioned, if you've got the number at the beginning, always assume it's a plus. So it's always going to be a plus if it's a starting term at the beginning there, so that's plus 8a. Okay, so now we deal with our c's. So now I'm starting here on minus 2, and I'm going to add the 5 to it. So I'm going to have the minus 2 add the 5. So minus 2 add 5 gives me plus 3, and I'll put the C there. Now, if you notice, I've got a number that is all on its own there. Hasn't got a letter with it, so it stays on its own, because remember, we don't mix things. So we just add the plus 6 on the end of it, because it hasn't got a letter linked to it. So, hopefully there's an introduction for you in adding together like terms in algebra.